All right, hey everybody. So I wanted to do this video actually for the last few holiday Christmases, but I tend to seem to get really busy during this time of year and I don't really focus on a lot of videos. But one thing I do want to kind of follow up on, how I ended the last video, is that if you want to get healthy, now is the time to do it. And I might have said this like eons ago, but I actually was born, Charles Dickens and I share the same birth date. So I've always, as a child, wanted to be a writer and, you know, had this little, I guess, fascination with somebody like Charles Dickens, especially because of reading a lot of his lifestyles and biography. There was a lot of self-identification with him because he wrote about a lot of those elites of London, but was really pro-peasant and talked about how the peasants in the Victorian era suffered really hard lifestyles in the poor classes of England. And so he had, from my understanding, I haven't read this stuff in years, but I think he had a softer spot for the poor working class, and used a lot of those, I guess, like gluttonous elite fucksticks as part of his, sorry for the bad language, but these people are disgusting. He used them as a lot of his more prominent characters in his book. I have quite a few antique Charles Dickens books, and it is quite interesting always looking at some of the character sketches of the more main characters that are kind of like obese and you know, a little bit more gluttonous through the times. That's how I would best express it. But the one, you know, we all have heard about the Christmas Carol, and it's a very popular play for this time of year. A lot of people collect the books or read the books to their children at this time of year. And the one thing that we can learn from that novel is that Ebenezer Scrooge changed his life in 24 hours. It took the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future to look at his life and go through this moment of self-reflection to change his life within a day. That generally does not happen to a lot of people. And as I've been doing this type of work for, you know, 18 going into 19 years, it can take people years of healing, especially the more intense the trauma is. The more bruised and damaged you are. I still question to this day how and why do some people snap out of certain things and some people don't. I've seen a lot of people at divorce therapy. I took that shit seriously and I applied my self-healing skills in divorce therapy, and it took a good solid 1 to 2 years, probably 2 years max, to really feel good. But when I only went to divorce therapy, I think maybe for 4 or 5 or 6 months, because it met like one time a week. And then I started feeling a little bit better through like rock climbing and all this stuff. And I don't want to talk about myself, but when I started divorce therapy, there were people there who were still attending from divorces from 2, 3, 4 years ago. So they were obviously still not healed and still within this realm. So if you are, we decorate this tree in the park. So I'll give you a nice little visual in the background. So if you, matches the sweater. If you are struggling and really need a chance to help and heal yourself, you really need to look at your past, present, and future and start to make wise decisions to navigate yourself to get out of these pitfalls or get out of, you know, this unhealthy sedentary lifestyle that you may be in. I'm not going to talk about this person publicly because if she ever found out, she would really hurt. But, you know, I know a person who used to be extremely healthy back in the 90s, you know, was a very vibrant person, did a lot of crafting, went through some stuff and a divorce, lost a parent. So we have several traumatic events that occurred all at the same time. And that was the kickstart to a very isolated lifestyle that is, you know, that is like hovered behind a television, very fear-based lifestyle. And it is extremely sad to see that. So if this resonates with you, you know, all you have to do is look like, how did I used to be? In fact, looking at our past for most people is probably pretty good or needed at this point. And because, for example, people I went to middle school and high school with, a lot of them were genuinely nice kids. And then all of a sudden they went through college or have been like looped up in progressive politics, and they've become fucking psychopathic assholes, especially on social media. Social media has changed everybody. And for the most part, most of us would say stuff online that we would never consider saying to somebody in person. So if, you know, and then I look back and I'm like, what? They were just so nice. They were so nice. And some of their niceness is that they really, you know, care about people, you know, being in the progressive political ideology realm. But, you know, they've become almost like a demon themselves. So if you can take something like Charles Dickens' story, whether you want to read it or get a book and read the story to help you self-reflect, or just start to look at where were you, where are you now, and where do you want to go? So if your future, if you want to, if you're isolated and overweight and depressed, is that what you want to see your next 20, 30 years like? Or do you want to go back to living a nice, vibrant lifestyle that is a little more social in general? Everything in life is a choice, and we have choices to do something about our situations or not. And oftentimes the more intense the trauma and the more you sweep stuff under the rug, the harder it's going to be to clean up that clutter or that trauma or that mess. So I hope this helps, and I hope you all have, if I don't do another video, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year. And some people can change their life within 24 hours. I mean, some people can just snap out of stuff. I've talked about it before years ago in past videos about the near-death experience. Now there's a whole other thought now about near-death experiences, and that's more some people claim that's more demons that are having these experiences with you than God. I don't know anything about that, but all I know is that what I've witnessed from people that I've met throughout my life and throughout my career is that some individuals, well, like the one guy, he got shot on the porch from a drive-by shooting in Tremont in downtown Cleveland by a gang. And he was bipolar, and he was in a coma in a hospital, had an out-of-body experience, met God, felt a bunch of love, came back to his body, eventually came out of the coma, and then was no longer bipolar, and then ended up moving out to Seattle, Washington, because the love of his life came out here and he was like too fear-based to do anything about it. So that is, you know, like a radical positive change. You know, sometimes these things happen. One traumatic event like that can drastically change. Like in that case, a traumatic event changed this guy's life, and it changed it for the more positive. So radical change within can happen for most people. It just takes a lot of years of self-reflection and thought. But we also have to realize that when we do all of this self-healing work, it needs to be balanced with still caring for other people, because in the spiritual communities I've seen of girls continuously healing themselves, they are so self-absorbed, they are so self-centered. And that's the one really big problem I have with this whole gender ideology, the she, he, they, them. Think about how fucking self-centered you are, that you want everybody else in this planet to look at you and refer to you for your pronouns. We have people in Africa getting abused daily, and they're eating off the land from whatever they can grow. You know, they still live in huts. I just cannot believe the self-centeredness. And so when you're going through these self-discovery, sometimes philanthropy, I use that word, I don't like using it because of, you know, people like Bill Gates, but sometimes you just need to go and find a giving tree at Christmas and realize like how many 5-year-olds just need a pair of socks. How many 5-year-olds, 7, 13-year-olds, like I did a giving tree and I bought a bunch of stuff for it. And it's like this 13-year-old girl wants a novel. I can't remember the author's name. And then another girl wanted, an 18-year-old girl just wants cooking supplies, you know? It's like, just start to think about things like this to help put it in perspective, especially if your life is a little more comfortable than most people. So we need to do the inner work. We just don't want to get so self-absorbed and fulfilled that we just become, you know, we just think about ourselves for years and years and years and years. My yoga guru in India used to say that depression is a self-centered disease. And I'm not talking about this in any sort of way that should be misperceived, but a lot of materialistic induced depression is more self-centered in general. I'm not talking about, you know, chemical experience, like brain chemicals being off. I'm not talking about somebody lost their parents in a house fire and they become depressed. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about kind of your everyday consumer junkie who's, you know, running around consuming life and still depressed when a lot of things in their life really aren't that bad, if that makes sense. So we have to break out of it. And that's kind of another video that I wanted to do, which is like the greatest gift to humanity that you can do right now is getting over yourself. And once you get over yourself, that's when a lot of these impressive life changes can happen and occur. All right, have a great one. Bye-bye.